Mic check. Mic check. Are we live? Oh, what is going on? Oh, what is going on? Are we live? I don't know. I'm not really certain. I think so. I think we're good. Okay. Well, sorry. I don't know what happened. Something went wrong. I turned my head for a minute, and voila, here we are. And what was really crazy is while I dropped the, while the stream dropped, I think, it doesn't look like it's working here. While I dropped the stream, Bitcoin came up and just went up to like, what was it like, let's see, where did it go to? 47,114. So, it was another $300 higher for a moment, so that was crazy. So that was what I was talking about earlier on the stream. So I actually labeled this stream part 2 again, and I don't even know if it's working, but whatever. I'm just going to keep going as if it were working. But I was saying, like, people are freaking out, and I'm like, look, it's all about the green line. That's what I tweeted about, or the blue line, I'm sorry, because ultimately, like, again, what I said previously about waves, like let's follow these waves, right? If we just go since the bottom, that's a small wave, and then we've got another wave, and then another wave, and then kind of a wave down, and then a little wave, and then a wave, and then kind of a wave, and then kind of a wave. So you can kind of see how that looks, right? That's kind of the way that you try to get rid of some of the noise, just to kind of go. To kind of go like get rid of that, like maybe do it on the daily or do it on the 3-day. You can kind of get a lot, this only looks like it's 2 waves, So point being, like, gotta like lessen some of that noise, and people freaking out. I just was tweeting with somebody earlier who, was talking about like, oh, it's not good that we haven't gotten up higher than wherever, and I'm like, all you got to do is look at right here, because that's the swing low. If you see on my screen, that's the swing low from right here. So we had this wave come up, this little impulse, and we came down, and this is what we tested, which also happens to be where the close of some of these 8-hour candles were. I think even a daily close. Yeah, I did it at the daily close right there, right? And so we have this daily close. It was support here. We didn't even wick totally into it. Right, we actually touched this ascending trend line that people have been drawing in. So I may leave this because I want to see how it compares to the symmetrical lines that I was using. But suffice to say, like, I'm like, okay, well, if we even if we wick below, like if we wick below, okay, that's something I'll be slightly concerned about. If we close, if we close a candle below here, then I'm going to be more concerned. But until that happens, there's no reason to panic. I mean, like, look at these moves. It's so crazy, like, again, just like people did. I feel like I talk about this all the time. I don't know. Just like people, again, were watching this impulse, and no, they were not buying here. 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 Finally, they're here because they're like, whoa, it's over 60,000. They're like, I'm buying now. And then, we had the sell down, and they're mad, right? So people were asking, like, as price is on the way up, people are like, oh, is now a good time to buy Bitcoin? But then when price had the sell down, everyone's freaked out, and they're like, oh, Bitcoin's going to go to 20,000. Nobody's asking, like, during this range right here in this consolidation, nobody's asking if it's a good time to buy Bitcoin. They're just like totally scared, unless they're in CTM. And now, like, price is going up, and people are, once again, like, price is going to keep rising, and they'll be like, oh, is now a good time to buy Bitcoin? There are tons of people who are waiting until we get above our old all-time high to buy Bitcoin. That's when they're going to be convinced, but they're going to miss out on, $20,000 of range because they're unwilling to take the, because they're unwilling, because they don't understand Bitcoin, So anyway, like, we did not break this line. and here we are, rising back up. And, I talked about this in a tweet. I'll show you the tweet in just a second. But it's like, I've said this before, like you can't expect it to go up in a straight line. Like I feel like I'm just repeating myself all the time. But if I go to the fibs here, if you go to this fib, like look at, you come up, you sell down, you give, like, this is a pretty big rise. You give away 30% of your rise. Okay. That's what happens. You can't expect it to go up in a straight line. It's not going to. So then let's go from this swing low up to this high. Oh, look at we gave back 30 to 40% of it. Like, just like over here. Literally did the same thing. So, what do you want? What are you looking for? Like, you should expect that price is going to come back, right? So then it's all about trying to find the level that matters, right? So for me, like, there's all sorts of levels that I'm looking at, but like most immediately, I'm looking at the most recent swing low, right? And to me, this little thing on the 8-hour chart, this spot right here does not count as a swing low. And that's what I was pointing out in this tweet, that it's like, well, what wick or swing high or swing low are you going to look at? Like, this is an 8-hour chart, and if that's what you're looking at, then, like, it's so hard to, when you have so much noise. So it's really just about picking, the level that matters. And for me, it's like, okay, I'm going to go to a daily. All right, so this is a pretty clear, like, I have this daily close, and so this is, another sell down, so this is going to be a swing low. So that's going to be the first place I'm looking. So that's why I put that line there. That way I'm not concerned unless we break below that. It's not that difficult, right? And you should expect price to come back. Now, I have this other tweet. Where did I put it? Let me pull this up. So I was looking at price history in 2013. So what I did was, let me go to my daily chart so that I can zoom back faster. What I did was, because I don't know, my view now for a while has gone back to kind of the whole like, I think we're going to mirror more 2013 now. To me, even though we didn't get the blow off top like we did in 2013, it just feels a lot more like a 2013 move. And so if I unlog this for a second, I'm going to zoom in a bit so you can see. Here was our swing low. If you follow this up, right, you have all these like series of pullbacks that took place. And I'm not going to try to retrace them. So like, I'm not going to try to draw them again here for you. I'll just show you on the tweet what I talked about. So from the bottom, July 6, 2013 to the peak, to close higher, than the first wave peak. So this range, right? Let's see if I can do this semi quickly. So like this range right here, I was basically looking at those. So there's, so once you got to the bottom, it took 123 days to get back to, where you were higher, where you closed higher. So you can see that right there. And then it only took 24 days after it retook all-time highs to reach the highest wick. So one thing that I think people don't realize or forget about is that not everybody uses the same spot for the high. Like, I was always using the wick high, so I kept wondering why everyone was saying, oh, price peaks in December. It's because I was going from the highest wick, which was here in November 30th, 2013, but a lot of people were using the highest daily close, which was barely December 4th, right? So it's important to recognize the differences. So it's always good to ask questions so that you can kind of see, so you have good reference for what's going on. But my point was that all throughout here, you get these these impulses up, and then it takes a while. If you look here, So I've got this wick right here, and it took 38 days to close higher than that wick. And even though after 19 days we made a higher wick, the higher close wasn't until 38 days later. So I basically like went along the 2013 bull run to the peak, and I was basically measuring pullbacks. So here during the 147 days between the mid-cycle low and the highest wick, which was November 30th, we had 7 pullbacks of at least 10%. And then I mentioned that here, because I basically included these two, right? So you have one that goes from here to here, and then you have another one that goes from here to here, right? These were at least 10% each. But if you consider what I said previously, it took 38 days to make a new closing high. So to me, that's what I combined those, right? And again, the full dip was approximately 23 to 24%. And so I basically mentioned that. And then there were 5 other times, periods of time where you had these drops. What I think is crazy is, where are we? Where was it? Right here. I think it's right here. If you look at this one wick, this 1 day wick, that's not the right line, I'm sorry. If you look at this 1 day wick, it's a 50% wick on a single day. That's insane. Like, are you serious? So what you're saying is, if we're gonna try to be comparable here, what you're saying is in 2013 on the way up, we won in 1 day. You can actually see it kind of right here. Like, look at where we were, and then suddenly, like, we wicked down. Like, I can only imagine if over the course of our, 53% drawdown right here, like, imagine this whole thing happening in 1 day. Like, it's crazy. Let's go from the wick high to the lowest wick here. 70 days it took to go to the lowest wick, which was 53% down. And then imagine that happening not in 70 days, but in 1 day. Right? Imagine that type of like long pullback not taking place over 70 days, but even taking place over 99 days. That's where we got our lowest daily close on this consolidation. Imagine it in 1 day. Right? If people sold here, like if people just got tired and sold here, can you imagine what would happen if, price comes, let's just draw some random line up here. Like if we're going to come up, like let's say we're like right here, we're over 114,000, and then we have a wick down to like 55,000 or 50,000. Like, can you imagine how many people would sell if we went all the way back down to like this level, where we had our recent near-term high? It's just crazy, So my point of the tweet, the thread, is for you to be aware that these things don't just go up in a straight line, and I feel like everyone ought to know it by now. But I think like because this drawdown took so long, I feel like people are saying, oh, like 2017 it was far more gradual, right? They're expecting it to be more like this now on the way up. I just don't know. Like, I mean, even then there were multiple 30 to 40% pullbacks. But I just think like because of the length of the consolidation, the distribution and the accumulation here, I just get the sense that, we're gonna move, like it's not gonna be in a straight line, and there will be a couple of moments where people are gonna freak out and then maybe sell, maybe capitulate. I don't know. But I wanted to raise awareness about that. And so you should expect massive volatility both to the upside and the downside. Still, not just over here, right? Nothing about that has changed. You should expect massive volatility still on the way up. And so to me, this is it's looking fine. I don't see anything wrong with this chart. And I put this blue box, I'm not going to go back to my tweet because I just accidentally went back to, I just closed that Twitter window. But to me, what I'm looking at here is this blue box. I could see a significant retest happening within this blue box. I'll highlight my green line at 42,000. I feel like this would be the lowest end of maybe a test. And just to kind of show you, I'm going to hide this line for a second. And then I'm going to put up my cloned trend lines. Where price is right now, I think that this is kind of where it would bottom if we continued to consolidate down. And if we did, from our little wick, if we kind of came to this area, that's 12%, well within reason. You know, if we came down and tested maybe support right here, let's see, actually right here, which was a weekly support at 39,000, that's 18.9%. Maybe that's even something that we should be prepared for. I know I am, but I'm looking in this blue box to hold. Somewhere in here, support is going to hold. And so far, it looks like that line, not just let me get rid of this, not just this trend line, but also the horizontal trend line from the swing low is holding. So it looks good to me. So I feel like I just spent like 6 years talking about Bitcoin, including the last stream, which I accidentally got logged out of. What else was I looking at? I was looking at sectors earlier. I flagged some sectors. What I did think was important to notice was that looking at growth to value, we were kind of consolidating a little bit, and growth broke out once again today. So I'm going to look and see if we get follow through on that, on growth versus value. I highlighted utilities. What I think was important to recognize is utilities have lagged behind basically every sector, because it's like the only sector that hasn't made a new all-time high since before the COVID crash. I think everyone else has, and finally, after some underperforming over the last few months compared to the other sectors, it broke out. I'm actually going to make this green now. I can lighten this up a bit. So what'll be interesting to see is, if I clone this line, what's going to happen? Are we going to test the top of that range? It's not a perfect line. Hold on. Are we going to test that or what? I don't know. I'm going to be looking at that. And so it's another example of like what we saw in the NASDAQ, where you've got this channel and then what looks like could be a wedge, coming up, forming within the channel, because it did respect this as support. What's interesting is the the sloping of the move up. So it's kind of starting to do that wave, that kind of wave rise. And so what I'm wondering, like I said, to see if we get blocked up here, or if we get to break up through there and then get up to the previous all-time high on the XLU. What else was I looking at? Oh, some really bad ones. Industrials are kind of breaking down the last couple of days. The materials sector, it's really interesting. Last week when I did my live stream, I made this circle right here. I was like, I'm wondering, where price is going to go, if it's going to stay in this range. And so we actually came up, tested the top, broke down, and now we're testing the bottom of that. So that's kind of interesting. And then energy is awful. Energy is doing so awful. The XLE, like we broke below like a really important horizontal level. And so then if you go back and you look at WTI, we're trading at 63. We closed below my 65.15 support. So I'm going to, and I don't know, I feel like maybe I should move this maybe to here. That looks like a much better level. And so right now it looks like we're catching support right here. So it seems like a decent level. So the question is, will this hold? Will it hold? And then I think the next important level is going to be right there. So be watching this. But it's really interesting, again, when you think about the macro backdrop and the inflation narrative, to me it's interesting that oil is coming back, right? It almost feels like we're going back to the same sort of scenario that we had when the NASDAQ way back here was outperforming everybody, during the heavy QE period when interest rates are coming down. Speaking of interest rates, Let's see what's going on with those. I haven't looked at interest rates in a little while. Okay, so last week I circled this because I wanted to see where we would go, if we would pop above or come below, and it looks like we have come below. So again, in this environment, if you think about it, like, so we have the crash, and then things bottomed out and rates came down, you know, and they kind of stayed down below this level, like at this level for months. And at the same time, like what the NASDAQ was doing during that time was outperforming. And so if rates keep going down, like I don't see why we don't continue to see the NASDAQ outperform. You know, maybe we get a little correction here on the NASDAQ, but then I don't see why it would be so hard to see the NASDAQ not outperforming for some time. So I was watching that earlier. What else on the sectors? Was there anything else? What I think is interesting here is on consumer staples. We had this move up, and the last time when I streamed about it, I mentioned that we closed above it. I think it was right here on the 10th. We closed above it, and I was like, okay, what's going to happen? So I have this ascending trend line, and I have the overhead, what was resistance and is now support. And we came down and we wicked, like, so we actually, we didn't wick. We closed down and then we opened low, and then we ended up coming up, you know, really high. So that's pretty amazing considering. What is this move? I actually want to see this move. It's like 1.25% on XLP consumer staples. So it looks like if we can continue this move up, that's going to be a resumption. So if you bought right here when this was down here, like, good job. That's pretty good. Let's see. Technology, it's kind of following, it follows the NASDAQ. Consumer discretionary falling behind. I feel like comm services. This one was concerning. Now, I'm not really sure what to make of this. I have to actually take a look at my lines and see what I think the market is respecting, because it looks like it broke down, but depending on where the line is, this is either like it closed above and so it's still in the range, or it closed below, like, and failed a retest. So that's going to be something I'm going to watch, because I want to know. I'm going to keep this line flexible. I'm going to put it right there, and I'll have to check back on it in a couple of days, because I want to see if this is a breakdown retest before resuming down, or if this was a fake breakdown and it's going to stay in the range. So that's something I'm looking at. Was there anything else? I feel like that was all I was looking at. And I don't know if I'm going to do a weekly update video tomorrow, because I feel like I've talked about all the indices, and maybe a lot will change tomorrow. But there were things like I didn't talk about DXY, gold, or silver. They're just not interesting to me today. So maybe I will do an update so I can include those tomorrow. But I think that's going to do it for the look today. If you are watching, thank you. Hit the like button, share with somebody, and support the work that you see. I hope it's helpful for you. I'm more than willing to hear your comments. I would love to hear your comments. Thanks again for watching, and this is Markets for Millennials, and I'll see you guys the next time I do a stream.